Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Michał and in this video we'll talk about the 2025 Chinese Grand Prix. Wow, what a race! But what happened after is even crazier. I need to talk about those 3 disqualifications first. Who would have thought that both Ferraris will leave Shanghai without any points? And they finished on P5 and P6. That wasn't the best race for them, especially after Lewis Hamilton's win during the sprint, but these were very important points for the Drivers' Championship and they were left with nothing. The reasons behind the disqualifications were different between 2 drivers. Lewis Hamilton got disqualified for the plank damage. This is the plank on the bottom of the car, which is there to assess if the car was set up properly and it wasn't too low to the ground. And if that's the case and there are some problems with the setup or proposing, that plank would get thinner and his was basically too thin. And on the other hand, Charles Leclerc got disqualified for his car being too light at the end. So this is basically what happened to George Russell last season when he won the race, but then he finished with very old tires which had too little rubber at the end. But the other suspicion is that Mercedes didn't prepare his car too well then, and he had basically too little fuel. But the same thing happened to Charles Leclerc this time, but he was not the only car disqualified for that. Pierre Gasly's Alpine was also too light. So thanks to that we got a lot of reshuffling after the race, and even Carlos Sainz managed to score 1 point, which is a great result for Williams, who got 2 cars in top 10. However, for me personally, the biggest surprise was Haas. In Australia they finished dead last. However, that was some kind of success in the rain in Australia. However, both drivers weren't shining there and Ollie Behrman had basically problems each session. So it is especially impressive this week, as he was comfortably passing Liam Lawson during the race. And he couldn't leave it without a funny comment. He might not like Liam a lot because he commented through the radio with Ciao, which was a bit funny, but very impressive race by him. Esteban Ocon at the end finished 5th, and this was again proper racing. He even had this nice passing where he used grass to gain position. So that's a great race for both of them. It is also important to note that Lance Stroll scored some points for the 2nd race in a row, outscoring his teammate Fernando Alonso, who was not able to finish this race and retired at the beginning due to his brakes catching on fire. It is great to see Lance Stroll finally being there for his team and scoring important points for the Constructors' Championship. It is still hard to say about the overall pace of Aston Martin. And of course, Fernando's another issue. Last time he crashed during the race, during the rain, and this time his brakes caught on fires. So this is not the greatest outlook, but maybe they will recover, and they have now 2 weeks to prepare for the next race. Oh man, but Racing Bulls, how? Like, I don't get it. Their strategy blunders are getting just out of control. This is so frustrating to see because they qualified very well. They were 7th and 9th the start of the race and finished outside of the points. Yuki Tsunoda front wing broke during the race. That's understandable, but even before that they screwed up the strategy, and when everything was showing them that this race was a 1-stopper, they did 2 stops and did not adjust the strategy. So frustrating, because especially with how the other Red Bull team is, they have like the golden opportunity to show that they can compete and score some points within the midfield. And this is the 2nd race in a row where they just basically failed with the strategy. During Australia, Yuki was well positioned to score points, and they pitted him too late and he missed on that opportunity. Here again, both Isaac Hadjar and Yuki Tsunoda were racing very well, and then strategy, and they are outside of the points. I don't know what's with Italian teams and strategy. Ferrari wasn't the best, but they finished within points. Obviously they got disqualified, but they had a chance. But Racing Bulls, they need to do something, because they are just wasting opportunity after the opportunity to finish on higher positions. And as you know, probably the higher they finish, the more money they will get. So that's just wild with the blunders they are doing. Obviously, talking about Red Bull, there's another drama with Liam Lawson, who cannot count this race as a good one. Even with all these disqualifications in front of him, he was still far away from points. He was starting from the pit lane and gained a couple of positions at the end, but still a very bad race for Red Bull Racing driver. And he's not in the best of the situations, because of course he was supposed to replace Sergio Perez, who wasn't doing so well at the end of last season, but Liam Lawson is doing even worse. Objectively, Red Bull Racing car is a midfield car, and Max Verstappen is just able to squeeze so much pace out of it. It's a very hard car to drive. Even Max admitted in one of the interviews that Liam Lawson would score much better with Racing Bulls, and potentially he has not enough experience to race in Red Bull Racing car, which has a lot of issues this season. It seems that it's very hard on its tires for once, but yeah, somehow Max managed to score before this time, and of course podium last week. But Liam has issues. He qualified dead last, both for sprint and for the race, so I really do not envy his situation, because there's already a lot of gossip about him being replaced for Suzuka race in Japan. He knows that track though, so he might have a lot more pace there. He raced in Super Formula, which races there a lot, but yeah, there's gossip that Yuki Tsunoda might take his place, and Helmut Marko was already seen talking with Isaac Hadjar, so there's also a gossip that he might be the one to replace Liam Lawson. Obviously, it's not good for both the driver and the team. There are too many memes already that Red Bull is ruining young drivers' careers, but at this point, Liam Lawson has no chance to show if he's actually a good racer, and every weekend like this is just going to create this pressure for him, and definitely he will be replaced at the end if he's dead last all the time, and it would be very hard for him to stay in Formula 1. So at the end, even if it's very harsh, it might be better for him to go back to the Racing Bulls, for example, which have an easier car to drive. Yeah, but it's definitely very discouraging, and will be very harsh either way for him to be able to rebuild his confidence. But on the other hand, Red Bull Racing at the moment might not be as good opportunity as used to be for the other drivers, both Tsunoda or Hadjar. Obviously, they will be compared directly to Max Verstappen, which is always a harsh route to follow. But with Red Bull being so hard to drive at the moment, they might make it harder for their own careers. Hadjar is just starting, while Tsunoda is in his 5th season and might be out of his seat because Honda is moving out of Red Bull to Aston Martin next season, and obviously Tsunoda was supported by Honda. So far he was not able to move to Red Bull Racing, and he was omitted, both when Sergio Perez took that seat and now when Liam Lawson got it. So for his long-term future, it might be more beneficial to look for the other team if he wants to switch. For example, Aston Martin, if the seat is available there, because they invested a lot in their facilities, so they might become stronger and stronger, and they should at the end. They have a new wind tunnel this year. I'm not sure if it's fully operational, but it definitely will become soon. It's already fully functional, but they are just doing calibrations, according to their CEO, who was speaking about it during Beyond the Grid podcast. And they obviously invested highly also in their staff, Adrian Newey being one of the examples, and he's designing a next year's car, so it might be a beast. But that's always an unknown, because with 2026 come new regulations, and that's always an unknown. One thing is for sure, Red Bull is in a very hard place at the moment, and if they are not able to improve soon, they will be out of the title fight. Hopefully they won't ruin young drivers' careers in the meantime. But let's talk the strongest cars. It seems that both McLaren and Mercedes are really strong this season. George Russell is always there when there's a chance for a podium, both races, and he's scoring as much points as possible. Kimi Antonelli is also the strongest rookie so far this season. so a very promising season for them. If they manage to score some wins, they might be there fighting for the Drivers' Championship. It might be hard though, because both races McLaren showed that it's the strongest car on the grid. However, in China, their car was not as strong as it was supposed to be. Everyone was predicting that they will be finishing 30 seconds before anyone else, and it's not the case so far. So that might be a great outlook for the rest of the season, making it even more exciting. This race was won, of course, by Oscar Piastri, and he was definitely the stronger McLaren this weekend. Lando Norris made mistakes during the qualification and sprint, so obviously he lost points there. However, during the race itself, he was unlucky with very dangerous brake issue at the end. If you watched his after-race interviews, you will notice he wasn't that comfortable with that issue. He had to nurse his brakes for a couple of laps, and he was losing time quite a lot, and they suspect, and even he said, that George Russell would have got him if he had even one more lap to go. So hopefully the issue won't come back in the future, because it's just the most dangerous, I guess, with the brakes. But if Lando wants to challenge the Drivers' Championship this season, he needs to improve a bit, because the mistakes he made were costly with the grid being as close as it is at the moment. It was especially costly during the sprint. However, there were not that many points there to gain. But if the championship is very close, every point will count at the end, so the driver who makes less mistakes will get the crown. However, after last weekend, he's still leading the championship with scoring first and second, so probably the best race result he could have hoped for with the brake issue. But now let's wait for Japan to see if anything changes. Definitely this season is looking out very promising with the potential for other drivers to also score some wins. But there is also a chance for inter-team fight between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, and if they fight too much, there will be chances for other drivers, and so far George Russell is always there to take his chances, and he might also win thanks to that. Let me know what you think about the race and about the championship in general. Who do you think will be the fastest McLaren at the end of the season, Oscar or Lando? What do you think about the Red Bull situation as well? That one will be probably the most exciting F1 topic for the next week and a half at least, when there are no races. Do you think Liam Lawson will get replaced before or after the Japanese Grand Prix? Write down in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel. That was fast. See you in the next one.